Right, let's talk about sex, because from 2020, the government had planned to make sex education classes compulsory for all secondary school students. However, a petition is arguing that it should be the parents' choice as to whether their child learns about sexual relations in school. And after gathering more than 100,000 signatures, it's currently on 104,000 plus. The petition is going to be debated in Parliament next week, but we're going to have a preview to that, have our own debate in the studio this morning with us, Sian Griffiths, the education editor at the Times newspaper, and Andrea Williams, the director of Christian Concern. Good morning to you both, ladies. Sian, it's interesting, this debate comes up every now and again with regard to sex and relationship education, as a lot of people are pointing out it should be called this morning. What's your standpoint?
I think it's great that the government is planning to make sex and relationships education compulsory in schools. And there will be an opt-out for some parents. They will be able to opt their child out, certainly in primary schools. And I think it's really, really important, because we've got a generation of kids growing up who are learning about sex education online for the first time. They are looking at porn sites, they are sexting each other photos of their intimate parts, and then when their relationships break up, they're putting those photos out for the world to see, which is actually a criminal offence. And there is so much going on that actually parents don't really understand, and it's really important that schools and teachers teach kids as they're growing up from quite a young age, I think, about the risks of learning about sex on the internet, which is what's going on.
Andrea, it's quite interesting. A lot of those who have signed this petition for the opt-out clause will be from a religious background, because whenever you hear this argument from parents saying, I don't want my children being taught about sex in schools, it comes from Christian families, Muslim families, those whose faith stops them from wanting that out of their control.
Well, I think we need to take a step back in some ways. What has the sexual revolution done? We're living in a situation now where we have sexual chaos. We're raising our children in sexual chaos, and the system's answer to that has been, over the last years, let's just give our children more sex education. But where has that led? It's led to more porn being one of the leading trends, even this morning on Google, in terms of what's being accessed.
I don't think so. Sex education has led to porn. I think the internet has led to the ready availability
But
of
what
porn.
sex education is doing is still further familiarising. In many ways, the type of groups that are taking sex education into schools is fairly liberal in terms of the whole thing, in terms of what they're delivering to our children.
Well,
and our children are being exposed to things that they probably shouldn't be at ever earlier ages. And
well, the horse has bolted. Yeah. The internet is there now, so social media is there, the internet is there, there are programmes like Love Island. So if you don't want your children being taught about it in school, they're going to find out about it elsewhere. So in a controlled environment, in a school where you have professionals come in to talk about not just the nuts and bolts of sex, but also the respect aspect, the consent aspect, relationships, teaching about all of that, surely that is something that children should have access to.
Well, I think that when you look at the professionals that you say are involved, that are coming in and delivering sex education, it's organisations such as Metro, such as Brooks, Stonewall, and you go onto their websites and you'll see the kind of thing that they're delivering to our schools, which is really very hard and liberal exposure to sexual acts.
Okay, Charlotte, I haven't been in a sex education lesson for some years. Mine was a VHS about rabbits. I mean, we've got someone tweeting in today saying they had some naturists throwing a frisbee around, and as he quite wittily pointed out, throwing a frisbee at anyone in a bedroom doesn't necessarily lead to sex. What is sex education like? Who is teaching it, and what are they teaching in schools?
It will be teachers who teach it. So this is new guidance coming out, which will come into force in not this year, but next year. And I think there will be national guidance, and it will be much clearer than it has been about what will be taught. So in primary schools, it will be relationships education. So very much talking about what you were talking about just then, sort of healthy relationships. What does a healthy relationship look like? It doesn't look like the kind of interaction you see on a porn site. It's got respect for the other person. When you move into schools, then they're going to start teaching about sex education, which will include teaching about LGBT issues. And this, of course, is where the faith groups don't like sex education lessons, and this is why they want to be able to opt their children out of these lessons, because they do not want their children taught about homosexuality, even though it is absolutely proper and correct to teach children about homosexuality, because there are many, many gay children who are growing up in families that may be homophobic, where they will not get the chance to explore their sexuality and they will be made to feel ashamed.
Yeah,
and that is wrong.
Yeah, Andrew, is that your sticking point, learning about different sexualities in the classroom?
I care very deeply about our children and what they're being exposed to generally in life in this nation. We at the Christian Legal Centre are now dealing with a number of schools where children as aged 5 and 6 are confused about their gender. And so we have situations where there is huge concern, genuine concern for the harm that is being caused to children by being exposed to all sorts of ideologies that are coming in hard. Just take a look.
You say being exposed, is it not learning about different
ideologies? It would be great if the viewers could take a look at Metro's website, for instance, or Brooks' website.
Where are Metro teaching sex education in
They're
schools?
teaching them in some schools that we've been dealing with, which, because of legal reasons, I can't name the actual schools. But we know that Metro are coming in, we know that Brooks are coming in, we know that Stonewall are coming in, and the viewers only have to go and look on the websites. And this is not about, you know, where has the liberation got us? Where has it all got us to? Our children, there's more self-harming, there's more gender confusion. But
you could argue that you know, we've moved that way because children aren't being taught properly and responsibly.
I think the saddest thing is, again, it's moving away from all the LGBT stuff and actually looking at our young women and the pressure that they feel under and the pressure to have sex. Actually, that's
always been there, though, hasn't it, Sian? In terms of, you know, teen pregnancies aren't a new thing. Girls having underage sex and boys having underage sex is as old as time.
Teen pregnancies are up, self-harm is up, suicide rates are up.
Is that because we're talking about it more now? Because we know about it.
Sex education has not been a success, and you know, and the sexual revolution hasn't been a success. It hasn't made.
What would you like it to look like? It hasn't made our society. What would be your ideal sex education lesson?
Well, I think that the point is this: that the parents, first and foremost, should be the primary educators of their children. When we're talking about 5-, 6- and 7-year-olds, you know, they need to. It's you know.
Yeah, but we're talking about secondary school here.
No. This new piece of legislation will apply to children right down into primary schools. We know certainly at the Christian Legal Centre and Christian Concern that children in primary schools are being confused about who they are, being confused about whether they're little boys or little girls.
Okay, I want to bring Sian into that. We've only got a minute left.
No, it's true. But this
is a tiny number
it's not
of children.
I
mean, the transgender debate has absolutely hijacked the debate on sex education, quite wrongly in my view, because you are talking about such a small number of children.
Those that deliver the education into schools.
What we have problems with teenage pregnancy, we have problems with domestic violence, we have problems with teenagers looking at porn online and then going on to look at worse images and ending up with criminal records. And all these things need to be addressed in proper sex education lessons where kids can be taught in schools what is correct, what is appropriate.
What happens if the children aren't being educated at home?
And I think what the liberal agenda has done is not given us a happier society, has it? So we
haven't had these sex education lessons, so you can't blame sex education lessons we haven't had yet for what's happened in the past.
We need
the sex education.
They are currently there.
This is new sex education,
which
is really important. We have been really bad at sex education in this country. This is a great chance to improve what we're doing and to make it better for the next generation of kids.
Parents need to get really involved and take responsibility for their precious children, precious children.
Well, there is an opportunity to collaborate with schools.
That's
parents
the ideal.
To talk to teachers and those coming in.
And certainly that is what we need. We need collaboration between parents and children. But there's a very subtle shift with regards to the older children, whereby the parents only have the right to request opt-out. So there will be, we're certainly getting cases, again, where things are delivered and it's after the event that the parents are told.
Are finding out. Okay, well, that's a good note to end on, collaboration between parents.
Absolutely.
And
I think we agree on that.
Yeah, let's agree on that note there. Andrea Williams and Sian Griffiths, thank you very much for talking to us about sex this morning.